I married a wonderful man. Everyone says we're the perfect couple, high school sweethearts who built a life together. I believed that too. At least I used to. My husband is a good man, a hardworking provider. But his work has taken him away from me, little by little. His job demands long hours, endless trips, and late-night meetings. I understood at first. I told myself it was for us, for our future. But understanding doesn't keep you warm at night. At first, I filled the empty spaces with hobbies. I read books, went to yoga, even learned to cook new dishes. But dinners felt colder when I ate alone. The bed felt bigger, the silence louder. I tried to remind myself of the good times, how he used to surprise me with flowers, how we would talk for hours about everything and nothing. Now, our conversations were brief, mostly about schedules and responsibilities. I missed him, but I didn't know how to say it without sounding selfish. Friends and family saw us as the couple who had it all. "You're so lucky," they'd say, admiringly. I smiled, nodding along, but inside, I felt something was missing. I started noticing small things. How I dressed up less, how I no longer reached for his hand when we were together. I wasn't unhappy, but I wasn't happy either. I felt invisible. Then someone noticed me. It wasn't planned, and it wasn't dramatic. It was subtle, almost innocent at first. He was just there, a familiar face in my routine, someone who smiled when I walked by, who asked how my day was, and actually waited for an answer. It had been a long time since I felt that kind of attention. I told myself it was nothing. Just friendly conversation, casual company. But I couldn't deny the warmth I felt when he laughed at my jokes or the way his eyes lingered just a second longer than necessary. It was intoxicating, the feeling of being seen, of being wanted. I thought of my husband, working late in some office, too busy to notice the slow drift between us. He trusted me completely. That thought should have grounded me, should have made me step back. Instead, it made my heart race. Because for the first time in years, I felt something other than loneliness. I didn't do anything wrong. Not yet. But a dangerous thought crept into my mind. What if I did? It started with small moments, ones that could be brushed off as harmless. A conversation that lasted a little too long. A joke that felt a little too personal. A glance that lingered just enough to send a thrill through me. I told myself it was nothing, just a distraction, something to pass the time until my husband came home. But I started looking forward to seeing him. I told myself it was innocent, that it didn't mean anything. But my heart betrayed me. It beat faster when I saw his name on my phone. My breath caught when I heard his voice. He noticed things my husband hadn't in years. A new dress. A different shade of lipstick. The way I played with my hair when I was nervous. I didn't think I wanted attention, but when I got it, I realized how much I had missed it. The first time he touched me, it was nothing. A casual brush of his fingers against mine when he handed me my coffee. But I felt it. It was like a spark, igniting something I wasn't ready to name. I should have pulled away. I should have set boundaries. Instead, I let it happen. One evening, as we talked, he asked a simple question. "Are you happy?" I opened my mouth to say yes, to defend my marriage, to prove that I wasn't the kind of woman who let her mind wander. But the words never came. Because in that moment, I wasn't sure if I was lying to him or to myself. I started seeing him more often. Not planned, not deliberate, at least that's what I told myself. But deep down, I knew better. I lingered a little longer when we talked. I laughed a little softer when he teased me. I let myself feel something I shouldn't. My husband was still away, working, providing, trusting. He sent messages saying he missed me, but they felt like a routine rather than real longing. I responded with the same empty words. I missed him, too, but it wasn't the same kind of ache anymore. The line was getting thinner. I told myself I would never cross it. I loved my husband. I had built a life with him. But what happens when love isn't enough? What happens when someone else makes you feel alive in a way you didn't know you had lost? I could stop this. I could walk away. But deep inside, I knew I wouldn't. It happened without planning, without hesitation. One moment, we were talking like we always did, and the next, I was in his arms. I don't know who moved first, but once it started, I couldn't stop. His lips were warm, his hands firm, and in that instant, nothing else existed. Not my marriage, not my husband, not the years I had spent being the loyal wife. Only this moment, this feeling, this escape. I should have felt guilt immediately, but I didn't. All I felt was relief. Like I had been holding my breath for years and was finally allowed to exhale. It was intoxicating. The rush, the secrecy, the way he looked at me like I was the only woman in the world. With him, I wasn't just someone's wife. I was wanted, desired, alive. But the guilt came later. It crept in as I drove home, as I unlocked the door to the house I shared with my husband. I stood in our bedroom, staring at our wedding photo, and for the first time, I felt like a stranger in my own life. The woman in that picture was happy, devoted. She would have never done what I just did. But I wasn't her anymore. I tried to act normal, but everything had changed. My husband called that night, his voice tired but warm. "I can't wait to see you," he said, and I swallowed the lump in my throat. I told him I missed him, and maybe I meant it. But it wasn't the same. The affair didn't stop. It should have, but it didn't. Each time, I told myself it would be the last. Each time, I believed it a little less. I was reckless. Stolen moments, whispered confessions, a secret life I had never imagined for myself. I was balancing between two worlds, and I didn't know which one was real anymore. Then something changed. My husband came home early, a surprise. He walked in with flowers, smiling, expecting his wife to be waiting. But I wasn't the woman he left behind. He kissed me, and for the first time, I felt nothing. I looked at him, really looked at him, and I knew. The damage was done. I had crossed a line that couldn't be undone. The only question now was what I was going to do about it. I thought I had more time. Time to decide, time to figure out what I wanted, time to pretend nothing had changed. But time ran out the moment my husband looked at me that night and saw it. Something different in my eyes, in my touch, in the way I hesitated before answering simple questions. He didn't say anything at first. But I knew, and I think deep down he did too. I told myself I could fix it. I could bury the guilt, erase the memories, and go back to the life we had before. But that life didn't exist anymore. I had broken something, and no matter how much I wanted to, I couldn't put it back the way it was. The other man wanted more. He asked me to choose, to be with him, to stop living a lie. "You're not happy with him," he said, and I hated that I couldn't argue. Maybe I wasn't. But did that mean I should leave? Or was I just running from the consequences of what I had done? I played out every scenario in my mind. If I confessed, would my husband forgive me? Could we rebuild? Or would he always look at me and see betrayal? If I left, would it be for love? Or just the illusion of it? What if the passion I felt now faded, and I ended up alone, losing both of them? Then it happened. My husband found out. Maybe he saw a message I forgot to delete, or maybe he had known all along and finally let himself admit it. The confrontation wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was worse. It was quiet. His voice was steady, his expression unreadable. "Is there something you need to tell me?" I opened my mouth, but the words wouldn't come. Because no matter how I said it, the truth was the same. I had betrayed him. The man who had trusted me, loved me, built a life with me. There was no easy answer, no perfect ending. I had to choose. Stay and try to repair what I had broken, or walk away and face whatever came next. Either way, I had already lost something I could never get back. I looked at my husband, then at the life I had destroyed, and I knew, whatever I chose, nothing would ever be the same again.